Music is used to evoke some sort of emotion. You can tell a lot about a scene from a movie or a video game just from the first note of a song. It often gives the audience a subtle hint as to what they should expect from the rest of the scene or what kind of feeling the writers or directors are trying to express. A soundtrack creates this ambiance, and one game that does an exceptional job of creating ambiance is Elden Ring. Elden Ring's soundtrack gives the player a lot to work with as far as the tone and how everything is about to be presented. Before going forward, for this video I'm going to be looking at a small number of the tracks in the Elden Ring soundtrack, with the main focus today being the Leyndell Royal Capital track, because I do think it captures a great theme of the game. Also, there are a lot of songs in the Elden Ring soundtrack. Now, while some are just simple, like going through the caves, or the catacombs, or even just the open areas of some of the game, I still feel that I want to focus on some of these. If there's any specific tracks you want me to look into, let me know in the comments below. Now, let's begin. Take the opening part of Elden Ring, for example. Before you even hit the main menu, you hear this. The quietness of the strings being plucked to the few notes on the piano goes into the crescendo of an orchestra that gives off the feeling of a song of legend. It's almost as if From Software is telling us, glory awaits, but the road to get there will be difficult. The soundtrack does a fantastic job lifting up the scenes from the game. Take a listen at the opening cutscene, for example, as it follows the same pace of the opening menu music, but now we have dialogue and scenes depicting a story.
The fallen leaves tell a story. The great Elden Ring was shattered. In our home, across the fog, the lands between. Now, Queen Marika the Eternal is nowhere to be found. And in the night of the Black Knives, Godwyn the Golden was first to perish. Oh, rise now, ye tarnished, ye dead who yet live. The call of long-lost grace speaks to us all.
Once again, we are given a bit of a prophetic moment with music that is meant to more or less hype us up. I remember when I was playing Elden Ring for the first time, I got chills when the narrator said, "Arise, ye tarnished." I felt amped to begin the game. Now, this leads me to jump into the next part of the soundtrack that I wanted to talk about, and that is the music playing during our adventure through Limgrave. When first hearing this track, I was both shocked and awed. There was no sound playing save for my footsteps echoing in the grey empty chamber. And then when I opened the door, a castle in the far distance is the first thing to greet me. The music feels somewhat warm and inviting, only to be interrupted by this seemingly uncomfortable violin, interrupting the sort of serenity that I was already feeling. I heard someone say that that specific part served as almost like it was a warning. And I think they're right. There's peace in the land of the lands between. There is peace in Limgrave, but it only will be disrupted in an unexpected, quick way if you're not careful. Now, the next place I want to bring us to is Caelid, to the west of Limgrave. Now, where Limgrave was filled with color and a sense of warmth, Caelid is the exact opposite. Again, looking back at my first playthrough, I think we, as the new players, are meant to stumble across Caelid for the first time around, and most of us probably did. There was a church way before the beginning of the area that served as a grace for us, but there is a place where the NPC invader known as Anastasia, the Tarnished Eater, fights us. She is at the doorway of the church. And there is also even a wall and vicious dogs surrounding said wall that sort of tell us, hey, you may not want to come here. The Caelid track itself is played with this sort of creepy feeling. While I know it's some sort of string instrument being played, it sounds like flies buzzing all around me, and I just get this disgusting, uncomfortable feeling. And why not? Everything, everywhere in Caelid is infected with scarlet rot and is mutated as a result of this scarlet rot. The music is meant to increase that uncomfortability. This leads me to discuss the specific track I wanted to talk about in regards to the Elden Ring soundtrack and the ambiance of Elden Ring, and that is the Leyndell Royal Capital track. Once again, the string instruments tell us a story. As we walk into the royal capital, we are seeing the corpse of a once great empire. We are seeing what happens as a result of when one person, or in this case, one god, takes his frustration and anger of the order she rules out on her people. Now I know, that is a big oversimplification of events, but let's think about it for a second. Regardless on how you feel about the Golden Order, or Marika, or even the events that transpired in the lands between, the Golden Order was a mighty empire that spanned an entire country. Marika, its leader, ruled and ushered an age of peace, or at least for those who lived within the walls of the royal capital. That was until it was attacked by both the ancient dragons and then when the shattering happened. Its greatness is further backed up by the fact that the city itself is white and gold, and despite the fact that a war happened all around it and the giant dragon in the middle of the city, for the most part the city looks untouched. It gives me the vibe of Anor Londo, and it even wears the same white and gold. Going back to the strings of the Royal Capital track, they tell us that there is nothing left but a husk. Look at Grandsax for a moment. A mighty dragon who was larger than life, and yet his corpse is still there after all this time, becoming a monument of a great battle won by an even greater empire. There is nothing left of the Golden Order except an empty shell of a city guarded by those most loyal to the Order, and an Omen king who was once rejected by the very Order he now swears to protect. And much like Grandsax, the royal capital just feels like a monument. But let's not forget why we, the Tarnished, are here in the first place. It's because of the Elden Ring, to become the Elden Lord, which is contained within the Erd Tree. It is contained within Radagon. Remember the music from the opening menu? It plays during our fight with Radagon. The theme of glory and victory are reinvigorated here at this moment. We have heard the stories of Radagon, champion of the Golden Order, and we see for ourselves a transition from Marika into Radagon. What's sort of the cherry on top is that Radagon is still treated like a champion, like a final boss. Now maybe From Software was being a little cheeky and trying to make the player think that he was the end, but what is interesting about the theme is that looking at it on a music platform, such as Spotify or Apple Music, you'll notice that the second phase of the fight, the Elden Beast's part of the song is marked at the halfway, similar to other boss fights that have two phases. The Elden Beast part of the song plays as a tranquil feel, even though we are fighting for the fate of the land between. And again, much like the opening menu and the opening cutscene, we are hit with this loud orchestra. As we fight back and forth with the Elden Beast, I can't help but feel like the music fits. Looking at the boss arena, we are surrounded by countless trees, which gives me the vibe of the arch trees back from Dark Souls 1. This gives me the idea that maybe we are fighting almost like we're outside of time, or maybe at the beginning of it. And the reason why I think this is because of the spell Elden Stars. And the description reads, "It is said long ago, the Greater Will sent a golden star bearing a beast into the lands between, which would later become the Elden Ring." Now, it wouldn't be a video from me if we didn't talk a little bit of lore, right? You see, I heard this theory on Reddit, specifically from user VariousWallaby4820, that the other trees represent other worlds the Greater Will has conquered. Either way, this idea plays into the Greater Will being an outer god. Here in this boss arena, we catch a glimpse at this otherworldliness, so to speak, and that's just my thoughts, but let me know what you think. Elden Ring and its soundtrack is probably one of my favorites. The emotion the major songs invoke, and how they elevate the gameplay and the settings are astounding. Now, I've been wanting to talk about this for quite some time, and I'm glad I took the opportunity to do so. Music is an art form, and so is game development. When the two mix together, we see what kind of magic can occur. Whether it is meant to inspire us or sadden us, or even try to give us some other emotion we didn't even know we had, we as gamers get to see the beauty that is gaming. And that's going to be it from me. If you have any ideas on what I should cover next, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want more videos like this, and I will see you in the next one.